10 and counting. The death toll increases as Hurricane Irma heads north on a path of destruction. Good evening and thanks for joining us for Primetime News. A special welcome to viewers on onespotmedia.com. I am Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, Helping Hand, pledges of assistance as the sheer scale of Barbuda's disaster is revealed.
Worried about the weather, the latest on the St. Anne community, where people needed boats to get in after flood rains.
And what about us? Clarendon residents make a case for the Zone of Special Operations to come to their community.
In business news, record-breaking net international reserves surged to historic high.
There's also sports, post commentary and weather in this newscast. But before the break, the feedback question.
What should Jamaica do to help our Caribbean neighbors recover from devastation caused by Hurricane Irma?
Share comments online, facebook.com/televisionjamaica and tweet @televisionjam.
Stay with us. Primetime News returns right after this break. Welcome back to Primetime News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com.
A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store as in number 1 followed by the word Spot and Media.
10 and counting. The death toll this evening as Hurricane Irma continues her path in the Caribbean while making a beeline for the United States mainland.
The Turks and Caicos, Haiti and the Dominican Republic are the latest countries affected by the powerful Category 5 storm that has dealt devastation to Barbuda. With the latest, here's TVJ's Vashon Brown.
Hurricane Irma continues on its path of destruction across the Caribbean. Haiti and the Dominican Republic now feeling the effects of the powerful hurricane that caused devastation for some eastern Caribbean islands. The eye is expected to pass to just north of Hispaniola, but because of the size of the system, damage is expected in the northern parts of Haiti. So much so that evacuations started Thursday afternoon. People living in the Turks and Caicos Islands were also feeling the effects of Irma from early Thursday morning.
We expect that there will be extensive flooding conditions in the Turks and Caicos Islands, potentially with entire areas being covered, making it perhaps even difficult to differentiate the sea from the land masses in low-lying areas. That's a possibility.
There have been at least 10 deaths associated with Hurricane Irma in the Eastern Caribbean. 4 bodies had been recovered in St. Martin. 3 deaths were also confirmed in Puerto Rico. The other deaths were confirmed in Anguilla and Barbuda. And speaking of Barbuda, it's the destruction of Antigua's sister island that people are still talking about. Assessments are now taking place about what homes can continue to be occupied and the number of people who will require shelter.
The Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda issued a voluntary evacuation order for persons on Barbuda, partially because of the current, or temporary I should say, uninhabitable nature of the island, as well as the impending threat of Hurricane Jose coming through over late Friday into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon in the North Leeward. So the call for evacuation is based on that. There is a potential for there to be a mandatory evacuation order issued for the island.
In the British Virgin Islands, footage of flattened homes and damage to several buildings. Now with Hurricane Jose barreling towards the Eastern Caribbean, there is even more worry. Jose is expected to unleash its wrath on some of the countries already ravaged by Irma. Hurricane Jose is not expected to make landfall, but it will bring wind and rain when it brushes by the northern Leeward Islands. According to the National Hurricane Center, Jose is now a Category 3 storm. It has maximum sustained winds of 120 miles per hour and is moving west-northwest at 18 miles per hour and is located about 590 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. Vashon Brown, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, over in the Turks and Caicos Islands, Governor Dr. John Freeman told our news center that Hurricane Irma has been bearing down on sections of Grand Turk.
Suffering quite a bit already. Already a roof has come off in one case. Some cars are being flung around. The electricity is down. Part of the comms has been interrupted. So Grand Turk is suffering quite a lot of challenge at the moment.
And a Jamaican living in the British Virgin Islands has been sharing his experience of Hurricane Irma.
Good morning, people. This is Jermaine from Intola. Everything mash up, everything, nothing saved, nothing. We have nothing here. We need help. Only our lives saved. Me and my son have to sleep in a corridor last night. Look, everything mash up, everything, every building mash up, everything, nothing saved. Nothing. We have nothing. No water, no electricity. We have nothing. When I said nothing right now, I'm by Lime trying to get some.
Back home, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it remains in active contact with officials in Caribbean territories affected by the Hurricane Irma. The ministry is offering help to the various governments as well as Jamaican nationals in the respective islands. Help has also come from Trinidad, which has agreed to provide a helicopter and crew for the period of a week to directly contribute to the provision of relief and for Barbuda. Meanwhile, the European Union has said it's mobilizing its emergency response systems to help countries affected or threatened by Hurricane Irma.
And Hurricane Irma continued tracking towards South Florida, where it could slam Miami this weekend. For details, we go to the CNN.
Now, speaking of impending rains, residents of Douglas Castle in St. Anne are worried that another bout of showers could leave them marooned again for weeks. The community was cut off by floodwaters in May, and though the authorities have promised to deal with the issue, the residents say nothing has been done to date. TVJ Shamela Mitchell brings us his primetime news follow-up.
Dramatic images from Douglas Castle, St. Anne in May. People using boats to get into the community on the mountainous spine of the country. Months later.
Yeah, worried.
Why the worry?
It will flood again.
So we don't want black in and flood out like the last time.
Behind me is the house that was partially covered in flood waters during recent heavy rains in May of this year. It is now September and the area is now cleared. Some farmers are preparing to start planting again, others waiting patiently to reap. Still, fear lurks in the recess of their minds. Sinkholes which were blocked in May causing extensive flooding are still not cleared.
That one on the is the most essential one because I block the road. So that need the most work on because in time it come down, it take long to draw.
This is a sinkhole to which Mr. Douglas is referring. The residents complain that very little has been done to fix the problem.
They only come and brush it out, and now we don't see no action go on.
For Cecil Anderson, it is not just about the cleaning.
You want to change that to leave the water out. But it don't in one good like. When the water come now, it don't run out. So the excess of water come now, it just full up the place.
Dalton Nelson thinks it's more than that.
Then could I just blast the sinkhole and make you wall up and free? Because I will have a 4 black ridge under there. You see, just barely a drain. I then cut the road where they know it belongs to cut. Because they know so one next road did to cut around, so we are government road where they no cut. You understand? So they have to go they have to go draw up a card and think something good about that.
Meanwhile, Mayor of the St. Anne Municipal Corporation, Michael Belnavis, says all councillors were given an allocation for drain cleaning in each division in May. He says the allocation was based on the level of damage experienced by each councillor, and Douglas Castle was not unique.
The councillors were given monies to ensure that they deal with these sinkholes and these drains and these culverts and these gullies. So that if there is any sort of recurrence of any sort of rain action, heavy downpour beyond the norm, there won't be any flooding. They were given monies back in May, well actually in June, to deal with these situations. And then also they were given monies this month, well last month.
Meanwhile, the councillor for the area, Paul McFarlane, says he's not aware of an issue with the sinkholes and drains, as all of them were cleaned weeks ago. Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
Our top story today, 10 and counting. The death toll increases as Hurricane Irma heads north on a path of destruction. Still ahead, dream deferred, why Trump's tackling of the immigration law spells trouble for Jamaicans. And in business news, record-breaking, net international reserves surge to historic high. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. Amidst continued questions about whether Mount Salem was a right choice for the first zone of special operations, some Clarendon residents are asking, what about them? TVJ's Krista Campbell has been out in some crime hotspots in Clarendon, getting the feedback from residents.
Hayes, New Bowens, Racecourse, 19 Miles, Sandy Bay, Lionel Town, Buckner and Farm. The communities in Clarendon where, in recent times, crime has been tightening its grip. Police call them crime hotspots. Residents call them a nightmare. President of the Clarendon Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Winston Dawes, says businesses have been closing earlier as a result.
The murders occur usually in spurts. So we had the cases down in New Bowens where they're that. We have in Sept now, which had implications probably down in Racecourse.
He laments that it will take much more than the roughly 100 police available at any given time to properly police all of Clarendon.
Across the parish, the crime figures are a serious concern for police and residents alike. But for persons living in the so-called crime hotspots, the cries ring louder for urgent redress. But is a zone of special operations the answer?
All the residents we spoke to seem to think so.
As far as I'm concerned, Clarendon have more crimes than Montego Bay now. So Clarendon is in need.
Everywhere have their problems, but right now Clarendon seems to be the hottest parish in Jamaica right now. So I think yes, they should come to Clarendon first.
Lane where I live in too. I don't want to mend them, but the men them dress up like police. So we need the army to come in, to try and cool it down before it gets worse.
Maybe if you wait another month, whole heap more people die. Come now, get out what you can get, take out who you can take out, and try to clean up the place from now. Why wait?
As to the reasons behind those sentiments, residents in the volatile areas our news team visited insist the crimes are badly affecting their lives. Fear is a new clothing they now wear daily.
Everywhere in Clarendon, it's very serious where these crimes is taking place, and people are very afraid. We even afraid to send out our children to school. We reach a school gate long before school even dismiss.
The zone of operation will reduce the crime and make people them stop afraid and come out at night. Now if we don't, we keep me people them and my friend them will want to walk at night and want to go night football and they can't keep again. The killer them we stop come out and we stop kill left. Then see soldiers them afraid, not the police them, soldier them. We all want them in the area.
Sometimes when them invade the community, them come for a time and then they stop. So it will boil down, then it come back up. So they need a constant intervene in the communities.
And that's another sentiment the residents we spoke with shared, the possibility of migrating criminals.
It's like Jamesville. I've never heard of Jamesville having murders being committed by the gun. And then you hear Jamesville making the news for murder of that sort. So I believe that when pressure is added to certain sections, then some of those persons are going to be migrating. And I do not want them to be migrating to decent communities.
The residents want a long-term police military presence to truly arrest the crime problem in Clarendon. But they concede it will not be easy getting the people to give the security forces information. But one resident explained that persons may cooperate in other areas.
Start about the youth clubs. Get the youth in the community active because mostly it's the young youths that are involved in these kind of activities.
But will persons be willing to take part in activities where they don't see financial benefits?
Even through the clubs you get opportunities because most time you go and send in an application for work. When you go in for an interview, they ask if you are involved in a youth club, and sometimes that gets you the job.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
2 men suspected to have been involved in lottery scamming were arrested by the police in St. Elizabeth earlier today. TVJ's Anthony Lugg has details.
A firearm, 9 cell phones and lead sheets containing the names and personal information of people living overseas, all reportedly found in this house in Morningside District, St. Elizabeth, Thursday afternoon. The items, tools of trade in the lottery scam that has seen millions stolen from elderly United States citizens. The men nabbed today are said to be scammers. When our news team arrived at the house, 2 men and a female in handcuffs were being whisked away by the police. Reports are that shortly after midday on Thursday, The police were conducting an operation which led them to this house in Morningside. When cops got there, they say they saw a man with a firearm in one hand, a cell phone in the other, running from the house. They say they chased and held him. According to the police, they checked the premises and found another man along with a pregnant lady in the house. They were taken to the Black River police station.
It is our belief that lottery scamming activities will be conducted here. 9 telephones and several leaches, as I said, is an indication that's what they were doing here. Most of the persons tend to come in the southern section of Salisbury, but they think it's a safe haven. One of the young men is from Portmore, and the other one is from Manchester address. He is also before the Manchester court for similar offences.
The police are also asking the owner of the house to turn himself in to the Black River police station. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
The Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, says it will have to pay close attention to Jamaica's primary balance and the impact of crime on the economy. This comes amidst reports that Jamaica met all targets under the arrangement with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, from April to June. TVJ's Andrea Chisholm explains.
An IMF team is now in Jamaica looking at performance of the economy from April to June this year. And from all indications, things are looking good.
All the primary quantitative performance criteria have been met under the program.
That's because tax revenues are more than the IMF had projected. Roughly $17 billion more was collected at the end of June. And for the primary balance, money left to pay down on the debt, that was about $15 billion over the IMF target of $30.6 billion. But at the end of July, the EPOC co-chairman said government's primary balance target was $29 billion. Plus, it collected more money and spent less than projected. So technically, when it comes to money left to pay the country's debt, it's not as high as one may think.
In the month of July, if you were to correct for the timing differences, we only exceeded the target, the GOJ target, by $3.5 billion.
That led to this conclusion.
This budget was quite an ambitious target in terms of tax revenues, etc. We still have to pay close attention to this primary balance number going forward.
Meanwhile, with crime having a negative impact on Jamaica's economy,
we see hotspots in Jamaica. We are hoping that there can be deliberate action around those areas also, so that the Jamaica can get to a sense of, can increasingly move to a sense of comfort.
Mr. Duncan is hoping that the zones of special operations will reap positive results.
Jamaicans need to see that there is action, structured, organized. I do appreciate clear, build and hold strategy. I do appreciate the social intervention piece. I believe social intervention is where the emphasis needs to be in Jamaica as we look to really invest in our people, invest in our communities. That is where you will get to the heart of crime, and it's not a short-term measure.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the EPOC co-chairman says there is limited room for a massive wage increase in the public sector at this time. 2 unions representing public sector workers have already stated that they will not accept government's 6% increase in salaries for the 2017-2019 period. The government has budgeted roughly $185.3 billion for wages and salaries this fiscal year. While stating that he did not have all the details, Keith Duncan made this comment.
When you look at the projections going forward for the growth in wages and salaries over the life of the program, you would see that there is limited room, and therefore good sense needs to prevail on both sides.
Under Jamaica's agreement with the IMF, the country's wage to GDP ratio should decrease to 9% by 2019.
Get your immigration status regularized. The warning to undocumented Jamaicans living in the United States as President Donald Trump moves full speed ahead with his immigration agenda. One expert is weighing in and suggests that we could see an increase in the number of undocumented Caribbean nationals being sent home in the months ahead. TVJ's Janella Precious reports.
Promise made, promise kept. United States President Donald Trump continues to prove that he means business in his bid to clamp down on illegal immigrants living in the U.S.
I'm here today to announce that the program known as DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded.
DACA, otherwise known as the DREAM Act, grants legal status to certain undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as children and went to school there. The program has been placed on hold pending a decision by Congress, which has now left 800,000 beneficiaries in limbo. For Managing Director of Caribbean Immigrant Services, Irwin Clare, this is only the beginning, as the pressure on undocumented people living in the U.S. will intensify.
So you find that persons who normally would not be caught up in a deportation hearing or in a deportation situation now finds themselves in such. People are constantly being warned that if you do not have your documents in order to be caught, wary of where you go and your association. In New York, for example, considered a sanctuary city, sanctuary state, the challenges there are not as severe, but on the borders thereof, one has to be very concerned about and how you travel intrastate.
It's estimated that there are between 8 to 14 million undocumented persons living in the United States. DACA is but one of Mr. Trump's plans to reduce that number.
Starting in the month of October, you'll have more extreme vetting for certain categories of undocumented immigrants who are able to adjust their status in the United States. And that is those who have the H-2B visas. These are the temporary work visas who now may wish to adjust their status in the United States. Will find more extreme vetting in that process.
And so a caution to illegal Jamaican and other Caribbean immigrants.
We say that if you're in a position now to improve your immigration status, you must move on it now. For example, if you have family members in the United States who can petition for you now and you're hoping to join them, let them put in your applications now. Now is the best time, those who qualify for any immigration relief, to get their applications in, because we cannot tell you what the future will be.
Janella Precious, TVJ News.
And before the break, Archie's at the Smart Board with responses to our feedback question. Archie?
Thanks, Ray. And here's our question today. We're asking, what should Jamaica do to help our Caribbean neighbors recover from the devastation caused by Hurricane Irma? First comment from Pauline Moore, who says, since we have the best man them that build tough concrete houses with slab roof, find some of them man there and send them go rebuild some of the houses. JPS can volunteer if we could build concrete light posts too. Kenil Cole says there are a number of things we could do. We could put on a telethon, erect several drop-off zones to collect non-perishable food items. We could send new and used clothing. We could collect money through the Salvation Army and also send some members of our armed forces to render assistance. Vendetta says everyone from the JLP and the PNP should put together funds to help them, and those who can donate basic stuff like clothes and food and toiletries, and pray overall. And our final comments from Gerald Thomas, who says what they should do is open an account at the nearest bank, raise some money for the well-needed ones. Keep your comments coming on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/televisionjamaica, and your tweets to @televisionjam. The Business Day and news from overseas after the break.